And so Rebel is saying that in his time with us at the Silver Dance Ranch, he has helped people to come to a space into their heart where he's not going to judge them, where he's going to allow them almost like a breath, almost like just take a break for a minute so you can see yourself, so you can feel what else is there. Hey, it's Ruth again, and welcome to my ranch. They call this the Silver Dance Ranch, and this is the Taste Your Magic YouTube channel. What's fun about the ranch is you've seen readings that we've done for people where I do it. On the other side, we utilize animals with animal communication and also equine therapy, and our animals do a lot of the healing work. We have multiple different types of animals, and today what we're going to do is we're going to communicate with some of our horses that have chosen to communicate with you guys today. I'll slightly walk you through a little bit of the process, and then we'll also probably do some separate classes on how to do this. But what I love is when I've done native work in the past, it was more about telling the story of experience and passing it through experience and wisdom versus just step by step book process. And so what I like to do with the animals is I hear them and they invite me to come in. Let's share an experience for you guys, and so we all can learn from it. So this is what we're going to do. Some of the first parts that we like to do is come in and connect the heart space. So I'll visualize my heart. I'll feel it. Sometimes it looks like a muscle. Sometimes it just feels like energy. Sometimes it's a color. But the biggest thing is you want to start feeling your heart. Animals communicate through the heart space. And you start to share an experience together, how you feel. And so, since we have 4 in this field today, sometimes I invite them just to come up to me and share who wants to talk first, but we're going to do it a little differently. And so I'm going to just take a breath and start to feel into my heart. And then I'm going to ask who wants to share a message with you guys in this teaching right now today. And so what starts to happen is I start to feel my heart do different things. You guys might start to feel your heart because you're connected watching this. I'm feeling my heart getting bigger. And when this happens, I start to allow my body and my mind to connect to the heart and show me the direction of who it is. These are more simple ways of doing it. And so what starts to happen is I begin to start to turn towards Rebel, which is our gray horse. And 10 minutes ago, I brushed him off and he was clean. And then he decided he wanted to roll in mud. So we're going to play with him, all natural, nice and muddy, and just everybody gets to relax into this today is a big part of it. And so once I figure out a little bit of the direction, then I ask, is it you? And so I know his name. His name is Rebel. And I start to feel like for him right now, I feel like a tube almost of energy connecting to him. And his heart is right behind his front legs. And so as that starts to come to me, I'll feel almost like a movement. And as you're watching, all I want you guys to do is just notice what maybe you're feeling as you're connecting through this too, because everybody does it a little differently. You'll feel things a little differently. I also hear him when I communicate with them. I see pictures, I feel senses, I give references. They give me references of memories or things to look at. So that's going to begin as we go over there. So let's go ahead and just head over to Rebel. And once we start connecting with these animals, a lot of the times the other ones will notice and they'll be like, hey, I got something to say too, or I want to join the conversation. And sometimes we let them do it and sometimes we don't. Depends on the thing. So this is Rebel. And what I like to do, I know these kids pretty good. I've raised Rebel since he was 3, and we've done a lot of competitions in multiple areas, and so I've known him since he was little, and he's in his late teens. We'll get you how old he is. I forgot. So an interesting thing that happens is when we have a lot of energy buildup, stress, anything that's starting to clear out so we can have a better communication, the horses will start to clear that out as well because we're connected. And so I'll start to feel his stress and he'll start to feel my stress or sadness or emotions or whatever are happening. And they're built to just let these things go. We have kind of a tendency to hold on to things or hide things or judge them a certain way. And so we don't release them as well. And so horses are really, really good about helping us do that when we're connected. And so when he breathes out, blows his nose, when he takes a big sigh, when he farts or goes to the bathroom, and you won't see it too much because he's eating, but sometimes horses will lick their lips just with no food in their mouth. That's another way of releasing it. So, but he's just letting me kind of talk right now until I'm ready to listen to him. Okay, so now I'm ready to listen. And what Rebel is kind of wanting to share right now is through his many experience and years working with people from all over the world. He's actually worked with people from like 28 different countries. And there's a similarity, he says, between all of us that's really important to know, especially right now in this time. And it's about guilt. And that is something that humans, we use it to help us, and we also use it in a way that hinders us. And it gets confusing for the animals, for him especially, because he doesn't know how to be in a guilt very long with a person. That's interesting. So when someone's going through guilt, he's going to give me a minute because he's got a little bit more to say while I express some of this. So guilt is built in with us to teach us our morals, our moral compass. Are we in integrity with ourselves? When we feel guilt, it's showing us that that's not something we agree with our moral compass, whatever that is for us. And the moment that we recognize the guilt in our bodies, in our thoughts, now we can understand what we don't like or don't want or don't agree with. And that is to invite us now to step forward into a new space. Try something else, do something different, say you're sorry. What is it that is causing this feeling of I'm off, this is off? And a lot of times it can feel like sadness because of what we're doing in that guilt, whatever it is. Sometimes our guilt comes from other people that have put it on us, that we're supposed to feel it. And it means that we're not a good person if we're feeling guilt of some sort. But when we get right down to it, guilt is built in for you to understand your moral compass, your integrity. Are you following that? And so Rebel has expressed that a lot of the times we create a whole bunch of stories around this guilt feeling that was originally just to help us understand another process and how to change what we're doing and our actions or our thoughts. But instead, it kind of wraps us into like a cage where we start to use guilt as a punishment and holding space as if we're doing something about the process. Another way of saying that is, if you are in a guilt and you're not allowing yourself to move through it and find the reasons of why it's doing it and change your thoughts, change your actions, then it's actually sucking life from what it was originally intended to do. And it creates illness and stagnation in your system. And it clouds up your actual moral compass and integrity. This is a lot. So what Rebel is saying, and we'll kind of move forward with this a little bit, and we can go on about these other processes in another, a little bit more in other details of what guilt is and how to move through it good. But we really want to find out what Rebel has to say about it. And so Rebel is saying that in his time with us at the Silver Dance Ranch, he has helped people to come to a space into their heart where he's not going to judge them, where he's going to allow them almost like a breath, almost like just take a break for a minute so you can see yourself, so you can feel what else is there. And as he's given these people a space to just be a naturally good person, because we are just naturally in our own space, not with shoulds, not with the stories, but just who we are in that innocence, then the people have been able to release whatever emotion was holding on to that guilt. And so he's bringing up some references of my own guilt that I've had. And he says that I usually feel sadness when I feel guilt. And I like to hide sadness. And when I hide sadness, I ignore things. I might fix things, I might change what I'm doing so I get back in alignment with what I believe is my moral compass. But he is saying that I tend to hold on to the sadness instead of letting myself feel it. And so for me to listen to him, I'm understanding that guilt is a process that takes both your mind, your heart, and your soul, and a movement through it. So you're going to see the stories, you're going to feel your heart, you're going to feel your emotions, and you're going to allow yourself to see what else is possible now to get out of those cages. And another thing that he's saying is, so there's a story real quick, and I had him packing a client, and she was a big client. She's really, really awesome, really neat woman, and she was a little too big to be putting on a horse. And he kept telling me, I'll take care of her the best I can, but you need to listen to me when things are going to get a little shaky. If you trust me, if we trust each other, we got to listen to each other. Well, we went up some pretty steep stuff, and she did all right going up, but there was this really, really steep space that is, all she did was hang on. She'd be fine. He could be doing it. Well, he started quitting. He stopped, and he wouldn't go. He wouldn't walk forward anymore, and that's not like Rebel. And he's like, I'm not doing it. I'm not taking her up there. And I'm like, you know you can do this. You know she can do this, right? It's just a short little stretch. But what he was predicting or feeling beyond what I was willing to go into looking at was, well, now we're going to have to come back down it also, right? And this is a sketchy area. I know, it was like a really sketchy area. So he kept stopping. And I literally had to spank him to go up the hill. I know, I'm sorry about that. And he took this woman up the hill. And when we got up there and we went to turn back around, he kept asking, how about you just help her walk down it? not on me, right? Because we're talking like this. And the woman was very big with short legs, and so it was hard to keep a balance. It was like, he was describing it like packing a bunch of water, and that's really hard to pack. And anyway, what happened was we had to go under this little teeny limb where all she had to do was this. And she went like this and got off balance with one of his steps. He tried to stop her and she rolled off of her just because of the weight. Nothing else other than she couldn't control the motion and gravity and everything else like that. And she rolled off and rolled down the hill. Anyway, she didn't actually get hurt. She got kind of banged up and a little bit bruised, but we were able to let her walk a little ways and then put her back on him. And I felt guilt because, one, I made him go through that. Two, I made her go through that. Three, I didn't listen, and I said I trusted him and he could trust me. And I think out of just, I don't want anybody getting hurt. This was a long, long time ago. We've learned a lot of lessons since then. But I felt bad because I didn't want a client angry or upset that way, but mostly my deeper, deeper guilt was that I betrayed him in our trust. And I forced him to betray his intuition and his own internal guidance. And I claimed I trusted him, and I claimed I trusted me also. When really I said, we're just going to bulldoze through this, and we're all strong enough, we can stop whatever's going. Like, we're that good, right? But it was far beyond any of our abilities that I could have perceived. And so that was my guilt in the betrayal. And it took quite a process. In fact, I think it took about 5 years for me to really work through that with him. And it took me like admitting it to other people before I would finally let go enough to realize my guilt in betraying this amazing horse that I said I trusted and he could trust me. And since then, what he taught me, so the different act was, if you listen and you really feel aligned, you might get excited, you might have a little fear, but you can keep breathing and let's take some steps together. And ever since then, once I let that go and I admitted it to some people, because, you don't want to, that's an embarrassing story. And as someone who takes care of clients, and I'm like, you can trust me. I was like, oh no, I better not tell anybody that story because I don't want them scared because it's not something that normally happens, right? But it did. And so I admitted some stories. It freed him from anything that was perceived that he hurt a person, because he didn't. And it freed me from my guilt, and we were able to laugh about it. And the client laughed even. She thought it was funny, and everything ended up lightening up after that. But thanks a lot for bringing that story up, Rebel. So anyway, his main message for you guys is, when you start to feel guilt, look at it as this is your moral compass, and what is your integrity with yourself? And once you feel that guilt, that's it. Now take some actions differently. Don't let yourself beat and punish it over and over again, because you're not helping you're not helping the environment, you're not helping the situation, you're not helping who you could actually help now that you know better. You're staying locked in a cage, and that's not a natural process. So move through the emotions, see what you need to do. Do you need to write a letter? Do you need to confess it? Do you need to just feel the emotion? What is it that guilt is asking you to do? And then start to take little actions forward out of that. And then you'll start to free yourself so you can do better and see better and feel better and enjoy things, because you'll be surprised that once you are aligned and on your actual path, vulnerability is actually protected very much in these worlds, and you are safe. Okay, so now, what does Rebel want to say to you? Just listen, feel, see if you get any memories. What does he have to tell you? Good. And that's what Rebel has to share with you today.